Spoilers and offensive content to come.
This is Carlos and Dave. Wrong title. This is Two Fat Guys Talk, episode 119. And we'll get to the topic at hand in a moment, but Dave and I have decided that we're each going to give ourselves 90 seconds to talk about the horrific and brutal murder of George Floyd first, and then we are going to not talk about it at all for the rest of the episode. Who wants to go first?
You go first.
Okay, 90-second timer's on, and go. Black Lives Matter. Saying all lives matter is just an attempt to deflect it. The fact that this shit keeps happening is depressing and horrifying, and I hate it. That said, I don't recommend people go protest, because while I completely understand your anger, and I have absolutely no issue with the fact that there's rioting and looting happening, because unfortunately it's the only way that lawmakers listen is when this shit happens, the fact of the matter remains that on this continent there is no left. There's no political left parties. They don't fucking exist. There's no organized left to properly guide people to turn their rage into actual meaningful change. And going out and getting cops mad at you and having them escalate their response is unfortunately not going to help. It might do some short-term things, but in the long term, this shit is just going to fucking happen again. And it makes me horrified for my black friends and black family members, some of which are in the States, some of which are not, and they're here in Canada. This shit happens in Canada too. We're seeing examples of that all throughout these protests. Black Lives Matter, for the love of God. It's so stupid. I hate that this is all happening, and that I didn't even end up using all of my timer. Look at that. And that's it for me. I'm going to stop the timer now with 10 seconds to spare. And just reset that. All right, Dave, go.
So yeah, this has been a tough week for everybody. Black Lives Matters is an important thing and should not be treated as automatically thugs and other derogatory things. The police have shown just how bad they're willing to act up. Even when they're on live TV, they can't seem to find the compassion to not show just how bad they've gotten. I don't know if defunding them is necessarily the right thing to do, but something has got to change, and hitting the pocketbooks of the organization may be the only way to start this off. Just be safe. If you in your heart you feel you need to go out to the protests, just be safe. Don't get COVID. Don't get beat up. I didn't think I'd go 90 seconds, but that's
You did go longer than I thought, but that's okay.
Just be safe.
Yeah, be safe. All right. No more depressing talk. Let's get to the topic at hand.
Let's get to the depressing video game company talk and the like.
Yes. Episode 118. It's our pre-Not-E3 various companies' online showcases for things that they will be showing at the summer of 2020. Showcase predictions and hopes and dreams and
I gotta
wish lists. And
I gotta stop you for a second.
Predictions 2020 pre-Not-E3.
How is it episode 118 when 3.5-4 minutes ago during our intro it was episode 119?
Let me rephrase. This episode 119, the pre-E3, pre-Not-E3 online prediction of events that will be held online because COVID is not allowing for a proper E3 news conference, predictions and wish lists of things that will happen, some of which haven't been announced yet. List of predicting.
So can we agree that this may actually be the death knell of E3?
Yeah, probably.
Because let's face it, E3 is already becoming less and less relevant by the fact that there were more press events that were happening throughout the year. BlizzCon, GamersCon, even QuakeCon, for fuck's sakes, had new games being announced at it. E3 is not the central point for at least Western game announcements.
I know for me personally, I've been being less and less interested in these big gatherings because they're all about games and speeches that I don't give two fucks about. That's why I've loved the Nintendo Directs and the other Direct-style presentations, because even when they're about games I don't care about, the fact that it's all focused on the games and talked about with a lot more passion is infinitely more fascinating to me and far more interesting.
Well, I mean, that's why we liked Microsoft's show last year. I mean, they went up there, said, hey, how you doing? Here's the games.
Yeah, and for the most part, there weren't too many speeches in between. It was just game. Now, a lot of those games are the type of games I don't give a fuck about.
Well,
modern AAA type of game is usually my thing, with some exceptions.
But, I mean, that's just it, is I think companies, for as much as I hate Ubisoft as a company, I may like their Assassin's Creed games for certain things and the like, but Ubisoft tends to piss me off with their presentations because they do a lot of we're so great.
They do have that hot black lady who hosts for them.
And while that's probably the most progressive that they've ever been, it doesn't defend the whole wasting our time. Just show us the games.
I like her because even though I can't remember her name, she is hot.
That shouldn't be a reason. Anyway.
Nobody saw this, but I just flipped the bird.
I get why companies allow developers to have their little speeches and everything else, but I think even that they tend to go on for a little bit too long sometimes.
Yeah, why would... I hate when shit goes too long. And just a reminder, folks, you're listening to episode 119, the pre-Not-E3 online makeshift. We're going to show stuff, but we can't do it in a big room. What's going to happen? Predictions and wish lists galore.
My biggest worry is because they're online focused, they're going to be even more long-winded.
You know what? There's a slight benefit to this. Do you know what the benefit is? I've grown cynical enough that I will just turn it the fuck off.
Or wait until the whole thing's totally done and then just be able to click through it.
Basically. I will watch the Nintendo Directs. I don't know what it is about Directs. I love Nintendo Directs. Usually. Sometimes it's about a game that I don't give a crap about, then I'll skip it, but...
And it may be something that I have to get used to the format of, because I have not been one who has been positive towards the Nintendo Directs because of their lack of showmanship at a showmanship show. But if they all go that route, so be it.
So we have predictions and wishes. Maybe we should do this by the big three and then branch off to the, the big three console makers, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then branch off to the little guys that tend to have shows like EA, Ubisoft, Square Enix, who is being oddly silent.
I think Square's in a little bit of a interesting position right now, before we get into the big three, I guess.
Okay, you know what? Let's just start with Square Enix. Sure. Square Enix. All right, so Square Enix.
I mean, they've had to push back their Final Fantasy XIV update now 2 or 3 times. But here's the thing. That doesn't mean they're in trouble that way. It just means that they're working on stuff and they want it to be good. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV doesn't normally launch a patch unless it's in a really good place. The QA for FF14 has been, I would say, amazing. Mm-hmm. They don't break stuff. They make sure everything's tested almost down to the last detail. I can't think of the last time that they broke something with a patch.
Kiki was telling me that she's been seeing a lot of buzz that people are hungry for a new class in the next patch, potentially a healer. She also adds that she just wants them to fix their current healers first.
I have not played my healing class since I hit level 50. Because I found up until level 50, I was able to have fun and focus on the game. But after that, the battles have been a little bit too intense for a healer for me. And this is coming from a guy who was used to healing in WoW. So I just went all in on my going from my bard to my ninja.
Yeah, and you've talked about how much fun you're having with ninja.
But again, back to the Square part of this. They still wanted to do 2 or 3 more content patches to Final Fantasy 15. And then that developer fucked off on them. And they canceled those update patches / DLC content. It might have been only 2, but anyway, they had further plans for that. I don't know what they're actually doing right now as far as full-fledged games. I mean, I know that Square is working on rumors of another Octopath Traveler game. Which I haven't played the first one because...
You can play it on Steam now.
Yeah, for $85. No.
That is pretty brutal. Look, Octopath Traveler's a lot of fun. It is not an $85 game.
And Square Enix games rarely go on sale. The
Yeah,
lowest I've seen Octopath Traveler on Steam, and remember, we're talking Canadian dollars.
Yeah, so $85 Canadian is like $3 American, so...
Seems like it sometimes. The lowest I've seen is $75. And if that got down to about $40, I might do an impulse buy, but I'm not paying $80 for probably a good game. Now, and this is funny, if they re-released Bravely Default 1 and 2 as a pack on Steam...
Well, Bravely Default and Bravely Second, because as we know,
Bravely Default 2
is a different upcoming game.
You're right. So if they released those 2 games on Steam, I would probably drop $80 total on them. Because those were good games, and more just because I'd be rebuying the first one and playing through it again to get it back into the 1.5 ultimately.
Sure.
But other than that, like we know about Bravely Default 2.
We know that there's an Avengers playable something coming this month. In terms of Square Enix, yeah, I know. The bile rose in my throat a little bit too.
It doesn't look good.
They have to be working on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, or whatever the next Final Fantasy Remake chapter is going to be called.
They're in the planning stages, from what I understand.
Okay. Do you think we're due for another re-release or remake of an old game, like Secret of Mana or Trials of Mana?
See, I could see them going back and doing a game like one of those, absolutely. In fact, I would almost say it's time for them to delve back into their, what I would call the gold library. And I think it's time for a 3D remake of Chrono Trigger.
I don't think I'd mind that, to be honest. I think I'd play it.
Even if it was only the mock 3D of like the Tail, or not the Tails games, the
Octopath?
Well, Octopath or Bravely Default or
Final Fantasy IV 3D one.
I'd rather go more of the Octopath / Bravely Default than Octopath.
So you think they were about due for a Chrono Trigger release?
I think it's about time for them to, much like Capcom, go back into their old library and actually use the contents of their library. You and I have had conversations before about the state of Chrono Trigger / Chrono Cross and everything else. I both liked the additions and didn't like how storyline they made it so it absolutely went to Chrono Cross. But I think they have the opportunity now of going back and doing a update to Chrono Trigger. And then, sure, go back and update Chrono Cross so A, it doesn't suck, knock down 3/4 of the characters, and focus on a good game. You can do that in a remake. You've shown you can pull this off with FF7.
Speaking of time travel games that look very pretty, Chris Tales is kind of going to fill that role for me. That's that game that I showed you a while back and you said the frog was looking up Chris's skirt. 2D JRPG style game from South America that's about time travel.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. So very cartoonish look. I'm definitely hungry for more old JRPG style games or even remakes of old games that kind of look like what if 2D remained the dominant kind of design philosophy and it just kept getting better and better. Like, I'll always say this: Final Fantasy VI, I'd love to see get remade or a sequel of some kind. Though I am scared for Modern Square to do that. I think we're much more likely to see some kind of new RPG from their RPG studios. I wonder if we're going to get an American announcement for that really cool looking action RPG in Dragon Quest, the one based off the anime.
Oh,
You remember that one?
yes.
Yeah,
And
that shit looks awesome.
it would be surprising if we didn't get an announcement for that, because action games do very well in North America.
I saw that and I'm like, I didn't even know there was a Dragon Quest anime. Then I went to look up some scenes. I'm like, this anime looks fucking cool. And I think I'm about to say something blasphemous, Dave. Are you ready?
Sure.
I think Dragon Quest looks better when Toriyama's not doing all the art.
Get out.
Okay. Well, folks, thanks for having us.
Not
This has been
really,
episode
of course.
119. Yeah, okay, that bad guy with the mask thing kind of looks a little Gundam-y, but I don't care. He still looks cool.
See, I understand where you're coming from, because especially seeing as we now have Dragon Ball Super.
I kind of get my fill of Toriyama from Dragon Ball Fighters and the Super manga.
Yeah, that's just it. Toriyama doing ultimately once he started doing the art for Dragon Quest, that's when it really kind of hit its stride in North America with Dragon Quest VIII.
Well, he always did the art for Dragon Quest. It's just that we didn't really know because we got all that localized art unless you were looking at an obscure image in a manual somewhere.
Exactly. Like, if it actually had a manual with it, you might see some of that art. But, I mean, Toriyama's art doesn't really come across in pixel art. And up until up until 8, you couldn't tell it was Toriyama. Mm-hmm. With 8 being the amazing breakout it was.
I think some of the monster designs you could tell, since the monsters were basically portraits that were in front of you. And yeah, a lot of them demons looked like Toriyama demons.
And even then, you still have to be a fan of Dragon Ball to really see the similarities, kind of thing. Actually, the one monster that everybody would be like, "Oh, I know, I can tell who did this," was the dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, Toriyama's dinosaurs
the
have
dinosaur style
big
enemies in Dragon Quest. It was like that was the first one that anybody could be like, that's Dragon Ball.
That's a dinosaur that Gohan chopped the tail off of.
Exactly. So it's funny on that, but
what other Square Enix?
I mean, Square has shown that it's willing to get back into some more action-y games, especially seeing as we've had 2 of the Dragon Quest Builders games, which were great. The second one was head over heels better than the first one. But, I mean, you expect that. Things evolve that way. Part 1 was kind of an experiment on their part. 2, you could see there was some real effort put into it. On top of that, we also had the Dragon Quest action games, the hero games.
Yeah, Dragon Quest Heroes, the
1 and 2.
The Musou games, the Dynasty Warriors.
So, I mean, they've shown they're willing to throw their characters into these. And, again, I'll point out, these games are so much better when they're not a Tecmo Koei license. So much better.
Yeah, when it's not their own, when it's not Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
When somebody else has control of effort put in, the games are so much better. Just to throw that little fucking dagger into Tecmo Koei.
Speaking of daggers, there are other Square Enix properties that we sometimes forget about because it's weird for us to talk about Tomb Raider and Deus Ex being Square Enix things, but they are.
They are.
Do you think we're going to see them?
No. I think with Tomb Raider 3 having gone the way it did...
Keep talking. There's another Square Enix game. I just don't remember the title.
Unfortunately, I believe that Tomb Raider has once again died.
You do think so?
Yes, I do. As much as I enjoyed the 3rd game, it was definitely the weakest title out of the 3 for how they took the Lara Croft's character, and just as once again the set piece was very nice, the environments and everything else, it just didn't do really anything new. It was just a continuation. Honestly, it was just weak compared to the first and the second.
There's also the game that looked cool last E3, but I know that Square Enix has put out updates to it. I think we're going to get a demo soon. Outriders.
Okay.
That one by People Can Fly. Yeah. The really like high concept steampunk kind of thing.
People Can Fly, I give a lot of credit because, I mean, I liked Bulletstorm.
You were a big fan of Bulletstorm. I was a big fan of Gears of War Judgment, which they also worked on.
I was also a big fan of BioShock Infinite.
Yeah.
So, I mean, People Can Fly has shown that they can do good games.
Oh, for sure.
I kind of wish they were around for the new BioShock game. But Tomb Raider, yeah, I think we've seen the end of... I don't think we're going to see a Tomb Raider 4 anytime soon in its current iteration. Especially when the Tomb Raider movies didn't do well. And Deus Ex, I want a new Deus Ex, but there's a lot of hesitation in the Deus Ex community around what they did with the last game.
Gotcha.
I mean, not the DLC, the microtransactions they put into there were toxic and evil.
You're talking about a game that is low-key political about the revolution against capitalism and inequality, just embraced microtransactions? Say it ain't so, Dave.
Yeah. Like, in the second Deus Ex game, because the first one was a very long time ago. In the last game that they had released, they had actually cut a chapter out of the game that literally when you go to the last chapter of the game, it feels like there's something missing because there was. There was an entire chapter cut out. They gave that back to us as DLC. If you bought some of the microtransactions, like some of the upgrade kits for your character to have a little bit of a boost in the beginning, if you restarted a new character 6 months later, you still had those. You bought them. You now have 3 upgrade kits at the beginning of the game to use, period. And the latest one? No. You get that once. You use it, it's gone, you start a new character, a new playthrough a year or 2 down the line. No, you gotta buy that shit again.
Lame.
So, many of us are very hesitant. And it didn't do as good because of their bullshit. They blame, they're like, oh, well, the sales weren't as good, so we put it on the back burner. Well, the sales weren't as good because of the shit you pulled. Why should I support that if you're going to do that? I'm not going to buy it day one because of that. So, Square is both... You can actually see the different sections of Square Enix as you go between the different games. Because Final Fantasy XIV, like, they're almost given carte blanche. Okay, here's your budget for the year. Do what you need to. I want an expansion every 2 years.
You got to feature certain characters from our other franchises.
You need to have crossovers that make sense and are awesome. Because, for the most part, they have been. I mean, bringing in Nier Automata, dungeons and characters have been great. I know this because I've watched videos. I haven't reached that part of the game in my actual...
Oh, Kiki has. She's shown me some of the raids and stuff.
I want to get there.
I like their interpretation of the Final Fantasy Tactics characters.
See, I want to get there. I just haven't put the time in, unfortunately. And it's nothing against Final Fantasy XIV. I just have to be in the right mood for it.
I hear you.
But then you get into Tomb Raider and Deus Ex, and they've kind of been shelved, and they're doing other things that we don't know what they're doing. Those parts of the devs. Dragon Quest is obviously doing quite well. It's had its breakout over the past few years into North America, even above and beyond the typical RPG stuff.
I wonder if Smash helped it along a little bit too.
No.
Like Smash helped Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem.
Okay, let's be honest here. If having a character in Smash increased the Animal Crossing game by more than 1%, I would be surprised. Same thing with Dragon Quest. Honestly, you've either been a fan of Dragon Quest for years, or you've just gotten into it with some of the new games, but the Smash...
Dragon Quest XI was out and pretty popular here even before that character came out.
I mean,
now Fire Emblem though did get a big boost because of Marth and Roy.
Absolutely, but back to Dragon Quest for a second.
Yeah,
if it helped any version of that game to sell, it would be the games on Switch.
Sure.
In that way, the cross sales potential was massive because all of a sudden you see this character. It's like, well, what game is this from? Then you start with Dragon Quest 11. You're like, well, wait, 11? How many games have there been? And of course, they've released the 3D versions or the upgrade versions on Switch.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in that way, great idea. I'm still a little bit bitter that my PS4 version was the lesser of the 3 versions.
It'd be nice if you could just DLC it up to where it should be.
I wish I could. I've also kind of contemplated getting the PC version on sale, then going and grabbing that fan patch to put the orchestral music into that version, and seeing as it has that DLC, I think I'd have to double check that. Then I'd have a full version, but that would be another 60 hours plus of gameplay I'd have to put in.
Yeah.
Which is why I haven't done it. But, yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about Square, but, I mean, Square does have a wide variety of different games they work on. They're not just the RPG guys anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to hear anytime soon about a Final Fantasy 16, though. I would go on a limb and place a $5 bet that we're not going to hear about a Final Fantasy 16 until 7's mostly done.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet.
It is. It really is.
1 week after, I can't believe Final Fantasy 16, 17, and 18 are all due this year.
It's just they're putting so much effort into Final Fantasy 7. I mean, I know it's only one studio that's working on it. I don't think they're going to want to try and poach sales from what has done an amazing job on this game. And we still have no idea how many fucking versions we're going to see. So, I mean, this could be another 4 or 5 years until we're done with Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I'm hopeful to see some sort of planning / introduction videos to the second part of Final Fantasy 7 Remake. But I'm also wouldn't be surprised if they're like, we're nowhere near started or barely started, so we're not showing anything before we're ready.
We have talked a lot about Square Enix. Let's try another company now.
Well, and Square does go with all 3 of these companies, so it makes a little bit of sense. So who do you want to start with of the big 3?
Microsoft!
Okay, so let's face it. Microsoft's the first probably 20 minutes of an hour-long show, if that's what it is, like normal, is going to be on the new hardware.
Series X.
The specs, the teraflops, the SSD technology,
the fans.
Now, if they were smart, this would be a 5-minute video showing things with a ending with a price point, and then get on to the actual games. And as Microsoft has taken a number of different kneecappings here recently for showing off stuff that was just trailers, you gotta start showing some gameplay on here, because as Sony proved with the PS3, I can show you a video that I'm claiming is in-game gameplay, and then turns out to be complete bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta stop with the trailers and show live gameplay.
We're probably gonna see something on Halo Infinite.
I hope so, because all we've seen so far for that is that 2-minute trailer that makes you really pumped.
I think it's too soon for another Gears of War.
Yeah, we haven't even finished the most recent Gears of War.
I
know how it ends.
I've watched all the story.
I know, but
scenes, and
you and I usually have a fun time of playing through them.
Oh, sure. I probably wouldn't turn it down, but at the same time, it made me very angry seeing what they did with the story and giving you a choice in a game that isn't about that, because they were too cowardly to just choose for you.
Yeah. And I mean, what's stupid about it is, in the next game, they're going to choose which one died.
Yeah.
They're not going to do a choose your own adventure, choose the beginning, again, we said spoilers at the beginning of this, so
Yeah,
choosing between which one dies, either
JT.
JT, or
Is it JT? I know it's James something Phoenix.
yeah.
JT.
I thought
Marcus the son or Dell.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And in the next game, they're not going to want to bring back voice actors for a what if. So they're going to choose which one was chosen, and it's going to be Marcus' son.
You know who should have died? And you're going to be shocked when I say this because he's my favorite character in all of Gears of War.
Marcus?
Should have been Baird.
Oh.
I love Baird, but Baird has had a complete story arc. His death would be meaningful to the cast, but he's already had his day in the light. He had his own game, for Christ's sake. And we could move on from that and still have that death they so desperately crave. My ideal choice is don't kill anyone, but if you're going to, probably should have been Baird, honestly.
Honestly? No.
Because you don't want to kill Cole. Cole brings in the bucks and he's cool. You don't want to kill Marcus. He's the face of Gears of War.
But that's the problem, though.
You don't want to kill JT, JB, J7, or Dell, because even though James is boring as shit, it's just kind of stupid to kill him, especially when he's getting an arc as kind of an almost villainous character because of the way he reacts to crowds. Dell is just too cool to kill. I don't want to kill Dell. And, what's her face? The main character who is the main character and should have been last time. What the fuck is her name? Kate? Kate. Yeah. And she's cool too, so don't kill her. Well, no. Baird is the best choice.
No, I disagree. At this point, Marcus was the right choice. Marcus was the right choice because he's had the full story arc. You've given him a second story arc now with his son. You could have Marcus go out in a blaze of glory. Maybe even have Baird and Marcus go at the same time. Maybe even have the old crew go at the same time in a blaze of glory.
Oh, we gotta have Cole, though.
I want Cole as much as anybody, but if you're going to try and move it on to a new cast, the situation at the end of the latest game would have been the perfect time to have the original crew go out. You didn't need to kill one of the new ones or anything else, but if you had to kill off anybody, Marcus should have been the one, because Marcus is getting old, he's getting tired, he's done with your bullshit, and the fact that they're trying to do a whole story arc with him and his son coming back together, you can do the whole, well, now I can't have that final conversation kind of sadness that they're trying to do with the new characters. It's
he probably would have been my second choice if you had to have someone die. My first choice would be Baird, as much as I love Baird.
I just don't think Baird has the impact.
Baird has tons of impact. Cornerstone of all the games. He's a character who actually grows. He has moments of fear, moments of triumph. When we get to see, and again, he had his own game. He is one of the few characters who has starred in his own Gears of War game. Like, it's Marcus, Baird, and whoever the hell is in the Tactics one. So,
which doesn't matter.
Which I hear is good, but not really special.
It's an XCOM style Gears of War game that didn't actually evolve anything from it.
Sure. So what else is Microsoft's going to show? Maybe they'll show more of Hellblade 2.
Well, Hellblade 2.
We'll see new game. Microsoft always has some new games they throw out there.
And especially seeing as their library or their development group is so big now with all the studios they bought. I know I said this last year, especially when they were buying so many different ones over the past couple of years. I just hope we won't see a resurface of old Microsoft, having bought all these studios and then shutting them down. Because that would just be bloody pathetic. We're going to see Psychonauts 2 shown at the Microsoft conference.
For sure.
Because they own them now.
Yeah.
And I really don't mind that so much. It just means that Double Fine now actually has some money behind them. They don't have the crowd source and everything else.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Let's hope it stays that way, yes. Double Fine is one of those indies that everybody kind of groaned when Microsoft bought them, but when the owner got on there and everything else and was talking about, you really saw that it was going to help them in the long run versus not.
We'll see. I'm very cynical.
Oh, again, this is Microsoft. They go through waves of being good to their studios and then not. If we suddenly see a new face of Microsoft, be very worried.
I think we're about due for a new Killer Instinct. The characters, there hasn't been a new DLC character for the original for some time. They have kept up with bug fixes and continuing to support the community scene. We gotta give Microsoft credit. They used their whole ass for Killer Instinct. They fostered a very vibrant community, and while it was never my favorite game to play, watching tournaments of that was super hype. So I have to give them credit. I think we're about due for a new one, though. They're not. I don't think they're going to announce more DLC for that game. I think we're going to get a sequel. I'm going to predict. I'm going to predict new Killer Instinct this year.
And that's just it. Is that would make logical sense to release a new Killer Instinct with the launch of their new console.
We've seen a renaissance of the beat 'em ups genre lately. We've had River City Girls. We had Streets of Rage 4, both fantastic games you and I have co-op through. There's the Takeover, which Matt has been marketing a lot. That looks really cool as well. Like Matt, as in Matt from the
McMuscles?
Yeah, Matt McMuscles. He's been marketing that one. That looks pretty cool. And another beat 'em up that will hopefully join that after some initially looking a little weak will hopefully be Battletoads. So, you think we're going to see more Battletoads this time?
Battletoads has been in game limbo. I mean, we're talking a game that was announced 2 or 3 E3s ago and hasn't been shown really since.
We've seen a few screens, but that's about it.
And that's it. It's just like, guys, like, what's going on here? Yeah. Battletoads shouldn't have taken 4 years. I'm just going to say that. That's a game that, if you'd have given it to Way Forward, they would have had out the door looking amazing within 2.
Now, here's the thing. I don't want to put that kind of constraints on any developer because I don't like crunch and I want developers to take as long as they need.
Fair enough.
If they need 4 years to develop a really solid beat 'em up, let them take 4 years. The only thing that would limit that is if I didn't know if I was going to still be alive at the end of it.
And that is a fair counter, yes. But for Microsoft, I mean, we're going to see another one of their racing games. It's
Project Gotham. Not Project Gotham. Is Project Gotham still alive? No, that was that company.
That's gone.
That was that company that Matt McMuscles did his series on. His Gone Too Soon series.
What is... I don't remember. MS Racing Games.
Forza,
there we go. You're going to have another Forza because that makes them a metric ton of money on freaking microtransactions.
Hang on, breaking news. Forza Tactics? XCOM style racing game. Weird. I'm making that up.
I'm thinking of upcoming Microsoft games, and I can't really remember too many that were other than games that are coming to multiple consoles. But that has been Microsoft's problem for the past 5+ years. Is they have almost no memorable Xbox exclusives outside of things like Gears of War, Halo, Forza, because they kept on shutting down the studios, making them the unique games. So that's why we're hoping that when they've bought all these new studios, we're going to have a reason to have an Xbox. Because I really have not had... My Xbox gets very little use. And honestly, they lost this console cycle very easily. Even with Nintendo coming in partway through, they've easily exceeded their install base as far as consoles go.
Like, Nintendo has won this handily. So, I mean, I think that one's easy to say. Sony!
Well, Sony has the big one coming out here soon, which they'll probably show a little bit still at E3.
The Last of Us 2?
The Last of Us 2.
We've seen all the story spoilers for it, but...
I haven't.
Oh, I have. I'll still... The first Last of Us game, I watched the playthrough of it, and that made me kind of want to play it.
Yeah.
Because I kind of appreciated the resource management. But I'm one of those cynics who liked Naughty Dog better when they were still making Crash Bandicoot, and didn't really like when they moved on to these cinematics experiences type of things. But I'll still probably watch that game play through. I don't think I'll play it myself.
I've watched Last of Us 1. I've played through about half of it myself, and I keep on telling myself that one day I'll go back to it. Realistically, I'm probably not.
I support Lesbian Ellie, though.
Yeah,
Full support for Lesbian Ellie.
that's fine. I have been keeping myself away from spoilers as far as Last of Us 2. Because if I do decide to play it, all of a sudden, I want to play it. I don't want to know everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's their big, most recent thing coming out. As far as what they're going to show up a bunch, they're probably going to see a bunch on Ghost of Tsushima. Because, God, that game looks beautiful.
It looks pretty. It doesn't look interesting to me, but it looks pretty. I'll grant you that.
You know, I'm probably going to pick that one up. It's the sort of world-exploring, combat, cinematic sort of thing that I like playing. Ultimately, it's Naughty Dog kind of made the set-piece adventure shooter in Uncharted, improving that in The Last of Us, and other companies have taken it and run with it in open worlds. So I'm okay with giant set pieces in open worlds that just amaze me. I'm also cool with the whole stealth, get in there and do things quietly without alerting anybody sort of games.
Do you think we're going to see a God of War 5? That could be a big surprise.
I hope so. It'll be a PS5 exclusive. Guaranteed.
No,
sorry.
That's a Sony-owned thing.
No, it won't. Because Sony has made it very clear that any game coming out over the next couple of years has to have a version for both systems.
Sure, they can make it as clear as they want. They'll break that promise the moment it's not profitable.
I know. I would love to see a God of War 5 announced, even if it's a year out. But if it's more than a year out, stop telling me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've agreed with that for years. Although, caveat, I understand development sometimes takes longer than you expect.
Okay, you can announce it. You can say that we're working on it. That's it. Don't show me, a cinematic trailer now that's not going to be completely different in 2 years when it's done.
Speaking of not this at all, maybe we'll see. Maybe they'll have the exclusive for Daikatana too. Civi put out a 1 hour long Daikatana video.
Yeah. I saw that on his playlist. But I mean, for Sony, it's tough because we didn't really get a Sony E3 last year.
No, they've been doing the Nintendo Direct thing, which I honestly think is for the best. I think that suits them a little better. If we do hear more about FF7 Remake DLC or the next chapter, it might be at this one, since at the moment it's still a Sony exclusive. Yeah. Nintendo. I'm looking forward to this. I always like their things. Blaster Master Zero and Blaster Master Zero 2, in addition to coming out on Steam soon, if they're not already out, and I recommend both of them to you, Dave. You'll love them. Plus, they grab that old lore that you were a fan of.
I own both.
Yeah, play them.
On PC.
Play them.
Yeah.
Play them. I'll play them with you if you want. These games, they have something in common. They were announced on Nintendo systems on the very same day they were released. And I think we're about due for Blaster Master Zero 3, and I'm predicting it will get announced, and then it will be available that evening.
Maybe.
And I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably see more about the new Pokemon Expansion Pass. We've been seeing some new info, like what types the new Galarian versions of the birds are. Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Psychic, Fighting, and Dark. Which is unexpected. They don't have their original elements.
I'm right now I'm in a Pokemon funk. I just don't care.
That's fine.
I haven't finished the Switch game yet, and it's probably going to take me a long time to finally get anywhere in it. I'm just more interested in other things.
No, it's fine.
Nintendo, unfortunately, right now is in one of their let's bring every game that's been out more than 2 years to their system.
Oh yeah, and we're going to get Mario 3D World.
Oh no! I'm not talking Nintendo first party games. I'm talking they are literally starting to steam up their store with any half-assed piece of shit game, and
this has been going on for a long time. The Switch store is approaching the NES and PlayStation 1 and 2 in terms of percentage of the library that's garbage.
It's just
it's a fantastic system, so that means everyone wants their piece of the pie.
it just bugs me. I mean, I'm seeing games that have been dead for years that are all of a sudden popping up. It's like, well, but wait, this was a PS3 game. Why does your game look like a PS2 game
Now,
in its version?
I'm okay with old PS3 and PS2 classics having a bit of a remaster for the Switch, provided that it's it's a fairly feature-rich remaster, that it controls well and whatnot. I'm okay with this, as long as it's not exorbitantly priced.
Well, and that's just it. The game that I'm referencing here is they're bringing out Burnout Paradise.
Okay.
Now, Burnout Paradise is an old game at this point. We're talking early PS3 days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it looked pretty nice for those days. And, I mean, it's been remastered on PC twice, kind of thing. And for other systems than the most recent one. But yet, their version still looks more like the PS3 version than anything else. And it doesn't have to. It just looks like a lazy port. And that's my problem with Nintendo right now. They've, outside of their first-party games, they're just like opening up their store and saying, "Please help me screw my customers." Because I mean, even Jim Sterling had a video not too long ago about asset flips.
Yeah.
Now showing up in the Nintendo store.
Sure.
And they shouldn't.
I'm more concerned though about games that I will play on the Switch, like the aforementioned Master Masters.
Moving on to that. Yes.
But no, I'm not trying to shut down your topic. I'm just saying that that there's a lot of junk in the store doesn't really concern me personally. But I get it. It could be a problem.
New Paper Mario.
Yeah, there is that new Paper Mario, the Origami King or whatever.
Yep.
I never really played the Paper Mario games, but people who do are probably going to be excited for that. I think we're about due for more information on Breath of the Wild 2, if that's even what it's going to be called. We got that brief glimpse about it, but we didn't really see any gameplay. I think for sure we got to see something this year.
I hope so, because that first trailer, the hype that made.
Metroid Prime 4, we got to see something about that.
I think Metroid Prime 4, because of what happened the last time, and seeing as they've gone back to the drawing board, I think we're still a year out from hearing about Metroid 4 again.
I have a prediction that I hope doesn't come true, but I think it's what's going to happen. Because Nintendo has been hesitant to put Donkey Kong Country games on their virtual console, on their SNES Online. I think we might see a Donkey Kong Country collection that's priced. I wouldn't be too surprised, especially since Nintendo's pretty hesitant to actually port those games over to their SNES Online environment.
Maybe. I mean, here's the problem. You can't really do a remake on those. Because it already looks great.
You could do widescreen support.
I guess.
Some other tweaks, but I mean, the Game Boy Advance version tweaked certain things about the level order, which is probably the best thing about that version, which is otherwise not great.
Okay.
For 2 anyway. 3's Game Boy Advance version is... We could do a whole episode on the differences on that one, but I don't think we're going to see a new Mario title, 2D or 3D, unless it's Super Mario 3D World, which is the last big Wii U holdout to not make it to the Switch yet. We'll definitely see the Smash announcement. We'll see information about what ARMS character they picked. And I think they'll also tease who the next fighter is as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see there.
See, Smash just kind of passes by me, other than the awesome Stage Creator Was a Mistake videos that you keep on sharing with me.
Shoutouts to AlphaRad. Okay, so that's the big 3.
Well, I mean, for Nintendo, I still want to see Mario Galaxy 2 brought over.
I think I'd rather they just make 3.
Well, I prefer they make 3, but I mean, they're bringing over Mario Galaxy 1, and they really should have done Mario Galaxy 2 because it was the better game. I
say yes, it was the better designed game, but Mario Galaxy 1 with its Rosalina's backstory segments it has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 is the better game. Except the post-game in 2 sucks. The post-game in 1 is a lot better because you get to play as Luigi. The post-game in 2 while you still can pick Luigi, you have to do those green stars, and that was not fun.
I never did any of that stuff, so I didn't care. As far as new games that we can see coming from Nintendo, in the current climate, and this kind of goes back to Square, I mean, now would be the time for Nintendo to make another partnership with Square and do another Mario RPG.
Super Mario RPG 2, Luigi's Big Break.
Why did you ruin it?
No, man, if there's a Mario RPG 2, it's got to have Luigi.
Fuck that.
Or a Mario RPG remake, and there are more party members, including Luigi.
No.
Yeah, we gotta have Luigi.
I don't need to add in the dead weight.
We gotta have Luigi. He's the other Mario. He should never have not been in the mainline games. When Mario 64 came out and Luigi wasn't in it, a part of me died. This plays well for the podcast audience. Our what I can only describe as signal wars.
It's hard to say what Nintendo's going to bring to the show as far as stuff that's new. I mean, we could get a new Kirby. It's about time for that.
It is about time for a new Kirby.
Unfortunately, if they're going to bring out a Donkey Kong Country collection, there won't be a new Donkey Kong Country game.
I think we'd all rather see the third Donkey Kong Country by what's the studio? Retro Studios.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like that, but I mean, they've had a resurgence here recently of action and RPG games that have come out. So Nintendo definitely has a wide net. Certain companies still won't do anything for them. Like EA has been very anti-Nintendo until they realize, oh wait, there's some money to be made there, and then then they just give like really bad ports of old games. So EA can kind of go to heck on that.
They can go right to heck. They can eat my bunghole in heck.
we probably should see more information on Bayonetta 3 this year.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be nice to see. But the big game from Nintendo for me is going to be Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, whatever the second Breath of the Wild is called.
Just call it Breath of the Wild 2 for now.
For now, yeah, Breath of the Wild 2. Tentative title.
Even if they choose that title as what it is, that's fine. I mean, Breath of the Wild is an amazing game. I know people have called out for a Zelda version of Mario Maker. I think that would be a neat game if they did that. They kind of gave a kind of version of that in the 3DS game. Sorry. The
port of the Game Boy one. Link's Awakening.
They kind of gave a mini version of that, but all that did was make people want a Zelda Maker more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I mean, I personally, if somebody made a Zelda Maker, I would get that game to play people's stages.
Enhanced remake of Zelda 2. Make it happen, Nintendo.
I would play that. Then again, I kind of want them to go and now give me an enhanced version of Link to the Past.
If they do that, they also have to include a randomizer in it.
That'd be neat.
That'd be super neat. Randomizers are cool.
But then again, I also want them to bring the sequel to that's only on the 3DS to Switch.
Oh yeah, A Link Between Worlds,
yeah.
Arguably the best Zelda game.
Yeah, it really was.
A super fucking good game.
And the 3D was amazing.
Yep, really good 3D. Amazing 3D.
One of the last good 3D games, actually.
Yeah, it's too bad that they only got 3D right with the new 3DS.
And then abandoned it.
Since it uses the cameras to track your face and it actually works on that. And then they abandoned it for 2DS stuff. Next, well, I guess we'll talk about other companies. We already did Square. Capcom?
See, you follow Capcom a lot more than I do.
I think
I'm just more disappointed with them than anything else.
To repeat a term I've said repeatedly, I think it's we're about due for a new Mega Man. 12 or X9. One or the other.
I would prefer X9.
Yeah, me too. I think so.
Although,
remind me to show you the fan game Mega Man X Corrupted. The same guy makes it who made Mega Man Unlimited, which we played a bunch and we liked.
Yeah.
So remind me to show you some of that after we're done here, but...
I gotta say though, one of the games I wish I hadn't bought and wish I could refund is the Zero Collection that I bought on Steam.
Oh, you don't like the Zero Collection?
I
Those
it,
games are pretty brutal.
I don't want it. I don't want to get a refund because they're brutal. I just don't like some of the mechanics in the Zero games. I don't like the fairy stuff.
Oh yeah, I never used them because to get the highest ranks you have to not use them.
And
So I didn't delve into that system at all.
And that's just it. Is here I've got all these fairies that seem like they have neat things I can do and everything else. But the moment I use the mechanic, Capcom's rubbing a middle finger in my face saying, "How dare you use a mechanic we put into the game?" It just...
Yeah, I'm not a fan of ranking systems like that
No.
because it encourages you to play the way the devs think you should play.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of that at all.
No, like, the storyline's kind of neat and everything else, but while playing through part one, I'm just like, even getting to the bosses, I'm like, these bosses aren't fun. Not like more of the classic styles. It just...
Hey, why did that first game only give you one life? What was the rationale between taking a Mega Man X game, making it balls to the walls hard, and then giving you only one life?
Yeah, maybe if I force myself through the remainder of part one and I get to part two, maybe some of the quality of life stuff they would have done will bring back some of my entertainment. But
I will say that is a series that gets better with each successive game. Mm-hmm. 2 is better than 1, 3 is better than 2, and 4 is the best of them all.
Yeah.
They absolutely do improve. They even let you use some upgrades without hurting your rank. Although, to get some upgrades, you need to beat bosses at a high rank, so there's your gives and takes for that.
Yeah.
They announced there's going to be one final season of Street Fighter V, which surprised people, because people thought that game was done, and they're going to do one more season of it.
Wait. Where's my rock to beat the dead horse?
I'm not a big fan of Street Fighter V, even though I think it's a better game than Street Fighter 4.
Okay.
I played Street Fighter 4 a lot more.
Yep.
And I think it's a better game than Street Fighter 3, which is wildly overrated, and I still played Third Strike a lot more. But I mean, I'm interested to see which characters they bring. Mildly curious if they're going to finally bring in some rival schools representation. That'll be kind of cool. Who knows if there's going to be some more Devil May Cry stuff. Devil May Cry 5 is awesome.
Little too early for that, I think.
Yeah, it might be too early. What else is Capcom? Oh, I'm going to make a bold prediction. Are you ready for my bold prediction?
Sure.
It's time. Breath of Fire 7. We will see before the summer is over. Bold prediction.
I'd love that. But then I remember 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm just like, oh, fuck.
Okay. 6 obviously needs to get shat on. You'll get no argument from me. 4, give and take. There's some issues with it. Good battle system, but kind of one note. And the story was better done in the official manga. By the way, you should read that. It has a much better ending than what the game gives.
Wait, okay. Now, 4 was...
4 is the 2D one that has a very pastel look to it.
Okay.
It's the last one that used 2D sprites alongside 3D spell effects.
Okay.
It's the one that has Cray, the dog samurai man, and the little robot that Dace is stuck in.
Yeah.
And it has Folu. 5 is Dragon Quarter. It's the one that you hated. I didn't really play for any meaningful amount of time, but I want to. That game gets a lot of mixed reviews. I think it's very ambitious and cool. You're not a fan, but you also played it a lot more than I did.
And time has given me a little bit of... I'm still very mixed on the game.
Sure. We can all agree that 6 is hot garbage, though.
Back to 5 for a moment. I mean,
sure.
I've shit on that game a lot because of many of its mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, that game was basically Breath of Fire Tactics.
It was Breath of Fire Tactics. It was the proto Dead Rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I have a great deal of anger towards those sort of systems. That if you don't hurry up and do things exactly the way the game wants to, fuck you. I finished the game through twice. I was not doing it 6 times to try and get the SS rank to get the best ending.
I find that it's fascinating to watch a speedrun of that, because you can beat the game fully and completely on your first run. It's fun to watch a speedrun of that game for that exact reason, that you can see that it is possible.
Oh, the people that have mastered that game, and when you don't use your dragon powers, therefore lowering your numbers, is just a masterpiece to watch. It's like watching Final Fantasy Tactics done by a pro.
Part of what's cool about Dragon Quarter is that you could choose to run it fast, but if you decide to take your time and rerun it, you're rewarded with more story scenes, which is kind of a neat idea. But I also get that this is a big departure for Breath of Fire.
Oh,
and,
fuck yes.
Arguably probably what the series needed, but the problem with that argument is that you can then say, well, 6 was a big departure too. And, well, some people out there might not even realize Breath of Fire 6 exists. It is. It's a Japanese-only mobile game that was episodic, looks and seems like it plays like hot garbage, and was unfinished. The story ended at a place where they're probably not going to continue it because it did poorly.
Well, and the moment I heard it was a mobile game, I knew A, we weren't going to get it, and B, that it wasn't going to do good, because here's the thing. People do want mobile games, and they do want RPGs. This is true. This is why I think the Switch has done so well. Because in its mobile format, you can play an awesome game on a system.
Yeah, like a console game. Like a proper non-portable console experience.
Yeah. And you have proper controls, which is what has held back many iOS and Android games, is that the controls aren't there. I don't care what phone you have. The moment you're trying to do a fighting game or anything that needs precise controls on a virtual D-pad, you're done. 6 was destined to fail. They decided that, we're going to dig up this old franchise. We're going to hope that everybody who has fond memories of the old games is going to buy right into it. And then they make it episodic. Then they make it microtransaction hell.
And they give it the most atrocious sprite work I've ever seen.
And they wonder why it fails.
Now, I will say this about the game. The sprite work is atrocious. The official art is gorgeous.
Oh, sure.
Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of Nina or Ryu from that game.
Yeah, they look great.
They are fan-fucking-tastic. Ryu's design in that game might be my favorite Ryu design.
And that's just it. You look at the official artwork, you're like, oh, sweet, they're making a new Breath of Fire game.
And then you look at screens.
You see the screens, you're like, oh,
and then it's another Commander Keen or another Command & Conquer.
Exactly.
Where it's like, Commander Keen, I like this cool new look. He's got a sister. That's kind of, oh no.
However, EA has, and I've got to give EA credit here, and for me, that's few and far between.
Should we jump to EA?
Yeah, we should jump to EA.
Okay. All right. EA Sports. It's in the game. Go.
They're still screwing people on their sports games.
Uh-huh.
That's never going to change. They now have the Madden franchise rights, exclusive football rights for Madden until 2026.
Wait a minute. Why did you bring up EA when I talked about Commander Keen?
You mentioned Command & Conquer.
That's EA?
Yeah.
I stand corrected. I was like, wait a minute. It's Bethesda, right? No, you're right. It's EA.
Yeah, no. But then we get to Command & Conquer. Now, a couple of years back, EA pissed off everybody who liked Command & Conquer by making that mobile game.
That looked like ass.
Played like ass, and they're like, well, you all have mobile phones, and this is what we're doing, so suck it up. All of us said, no, fuck you, your game's dead on arrival. And it was. So then somebody in EA was like, we need to get back a little bit of money on that monstrosity, and we have this entire backlog of Command & Conquer games. So how about we go and we remaster one of these, but not make it a cash grab. And somebody at EA must have been drunk that day and signed off on the budget for it. And what we got was a hell of a good remaster.
I'm just kidding. That EA exec fucking bit that guy's spine so hard that he started sucking the marrow out. But then what happened is, as part of the lawsuit, they made this game.
That could be. But they actually brought back the original voice actors for some new lines. The woman that they had doing the voice of the computer as you're playing through things for the interface, they brought her back. Hearing her interview about how she originally did all that voice work was interesting. And it plays great. I mean, one of the big problems I had with the Command & Conquer franchise is screen real estate. Almost a third of your fucking screen was interface. And there was no zoom in, there was no zoom out, really. It was, you got what you got.
Don't remind me to get a screenshot of what my WoW interface looks like.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I can see a lot in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, I bet. But they updated the interface and made it more intelligent. You can actually queue up multiple vehicles to be made in a more modern system, whereas back then it didn't have that. They're doing some balancing for the multiplayer, but as far as the single player goes, they were like, no, we're hands off, because the moment we start making this unit better than that unit, it breaks mission X kind of stuff. So they were like, they did that whole new interface, new graphics, but you can switch to the old one on the fly. They did a really good job on this, and this is unusual for EA when they tend to go in a new direction for a franchise. So now we're hoping that some of the other Command & Conquer games get this treatment, and maybe we can see an actual honest-to-God new, campy, still has the live video cutscenes in a new Command & Conquer game.
I liked that ship, that it was a plane, and it could dive underwater and turn into a sub.
I don't remember.
That was from one of the Red Alert games.
Okay, probably 3 then.
That 3 sounds right to me.
Because Command & Conquer Red Alert 1
one of Japan's units, I believe.
Was a World War II alternate.
Yeah, and I think
and
3 had Japan that you could play as, I think.
Yeah, 2 was like the mid-60s, 70s. And then 3 was like in the 80s, 90s. So the technology had gone. I think, yeah, Japan was in that one and actually had mechs.
So fucking corny. I love it.
Those games were so corny, but the actual gameplay with all your units and everything else were so well done. Like your old StarCraft tactic of floating your bases and then hoping they fall onto things to destroy them. Well, if you had a fleet of planes go over a city and they shot your planes down, your planes actually spiraled down and then crashed into buildings and did damage. Like they could cause units to blow up. That was actually a tactic I used on one map, kind of thing. The studio that did all those games before EA bought them out and then closed them down very quickly had such a good idea of these alternate universe war games. It was a magical time for strategy games. So,
remember Myth?
Oh, lordy, do I ever. Puzzle games.
Not Myst. Myth. We're still on real-time strategy. You played a bunch of Myth.
Oh, wait.
By Bungie.
That was one of the first ones that had...
rotatable camera.
Well, not just rotatable camera. That was the first game that actually had... where you could make craters from bombs and everything else. You had full...
There's environmental damage.
Environmental damage that actually changed things.
That was a Bungie game, right?
That was a Bungie game.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was also a really hard game.
I remember watching you get killed in it.
Yep.
Fun times.
Yeah, because you didn't so much make new units. You went into a map with X amount of units versus their X number of units. Fight.
Speaking of EA, I'm still waiting for NHL 94 2, The Reckoning. I know they added an NHL 94 mode to one of their last hockey games, but All it did was make it slightly more arcadey and add the little star cursor, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. Shout out to EA. I do like that nod. But I still pine for the one time I like the sports game.
Yeah, it's too bad that by doing that, that was the last money they spent on the game, and didn't actually put back in the 3/4 of the game that they ripped out.
Shade. Who owned Bad News Baseball? That was Japanese. Never mind. Someone needs to make a new Bad News Baseball, but not EA.
Yeah, the Sony's The Show does a good enough job of an actual baseball game, but you're talking about a different type.
I'm talking about a baseball game with anime cutscenes when there are close calls, like Bad News Baseball, a game I first played at your house.
And Base Wars?
I don't remember Base Wars.
Base Wars was you put together a team of robots, and when you got to the base, whether you were safe or not, you fought.
Speaking of which, where is my Mutant League Football sequel?
They made a sequel, it sucked.
Let me rephrase. Where is my sequel to the first Mutant League Football? Where is it? Or just re-release the first one. I'll take it at this point, honestly. I'll play that game. Hell, I'll play Blitz. And I've thought about putting a 49-way joystick in my arcade stick just so I could authentically play Blitz. And then I realized something. I have never played Blitz in my life, and I don't really want to.
See, you watched our college buddies and me play it.
And it seemed cool. I'm more interested in the fact that they made a 49-way joystick for it.
That was unique. It really was. Because you needed minute control on something.
It was analog, kind of.
Yes.
It was more like it's digital, but with 49 points of actuation.
Which I don't think any other game is actually needed. I've probably... I mean, other games probably use the cabinet.
Well, here's the thing. Part of the reason I was looking at getting a 49-way joystick for my arcade stick box is that I was hoping that it could work as an analog stick in a pinch,
but it's
right?
not... It's not enough.
It's not true analog. It's 49 digital points.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you want an analog actual system.
You could probably get some converter that translates each of the 49 points to some analog equivalent. It won't be as fine to control, but it would still probably do in, say, a 3D platformer that needs some fine-tuning.
Probably, but because you have 49 digital points... You have a lot of places that can go bad.
You're not wrong. And what if one of those points fails?
That's what
Especially on a joystick.
Yeah.
That could easily happen, so now you can't do slightly down left.
Could you imagine if the... What was that? It was the Wii controllers, not the Wii. The GameCube controllers. Had 49 points of articulation around there with me doing Mario Kart. With how I played those games back then?
Well, here's the... I mean...
Left and right would have been dead within a month.
Well, yeah, every line of points. Because it was on a 7x7 grid, so the middle line would be dead. I found those controllers the other day. I'm like, why am I keeping these? They went right in the trash.
I should have sold them.
I'm not selling crappy old Dave controllers.
Somebody might have actually bought them for parts.
I've tried to sell new good GameCube controllers, and I decided not to when people offered like $1.
Yeah.
Like, no, sorry. It's not. Look, I know things depreciate in value, but I'm not a sucker.
Yeah, you'd rather just throw them out for that.
Why I didn't sell my Wii U for $20. Fuck you. I'll hang on to it until it's worth more than that.
Yeah, that's just it.
What's our next company we can cover? Bethesda?
Have we done Ubisoft yet?
Let's cover Bethesda because you want to talk about Doom.
Oh boy. Okay, this is less E3 related, but
they added de novo.
So out of the blue, after the game had already released and already had a patch or two, they all of a sudden released a patch that added de novo anti-cheat
to Doom Eternal.
Yeah. There's
a Jim Sterling video covering the set length that we recommend watching.
There it was. No warning. Never mentioned ever in a release. It just happened. And seeing as right now anti-cheat systems are kind of on the radar of gamers when it comes to other games like Valorant, I think it is.
I don't know.
It's a shooter right now that has a rootkit level anti-cheat thing that runs when you start your computer.
Jesus fuck.
And their argument is, if you don't like it, just uninstall it. Oh, we don't look at your stuff, but we're totally looking at your stuff. And so when Doom Eternal did this, the outrage was very obvious. I mean, they got review bombed on Steam overnight. I myself haven't changed my review for it to negative, but they realized, and the studio made it very clear. IDSoft made it very clear that it was not Bethesda that made us do this. This was our own decision. Lots of people have said that, well, Bethesda's just telling you to say this, but I actually believe this.
Yeah, it's still a stupid decision. I don't see what it matters.
And this is the thing. If they had made the multiplayer launch de novo anti-cheat, and that's it, that's fine. I don't touch the multiplayer. I don't give a fuck about the multiplayer. But they enabled this on the single player as well. You don't need anti-cheat on a single player game, especially seeing as you have cheats in the game for me to use during the single player.
Yeah, you don't need root level anything running.
No.
I kind of get a root level anti-cheat when you're connected online because there's a certain expectation of keeping things fair. I still think it's grimy to add it after the fact. That should be upfront advertised and should only call and get activated when you're in multiplayer, and then the process should immediately end.
Yes. They have since come out and apologized that they are going to release a new patch that removes it completely, and that they should have been more transparent with its player base, and that is all correct.
No, they should apologize for that shit. What a grimy, shitty thing to do.
And the fact it was just out of nowhere. It's no warning or anything. Because honestly, I would have just turned off the patching on the game, and there, fine, do whatever you want. I don't have this bullshit in my single-player game. So that's the ultimately bad part of the Bethesda conversation. Fallout 76 is still a broken mess.
I know last time you were talking about Wastelanders and how it saved you from going crazy.
Well, and yeah, this kind of colors a lot of my appreciation for Fallout 76 here recently, in that during the pandemic, single player games were not keeping my focus, and I was nearly losing my mind, not being able to see friends and family. So Fallout 76 was something I had. Wastelanders came out, and I'm like, fuck it, let's start. I have a friend that I was playing with, and we started brand new characters on the new system, and went through the entire thing. And it's still a Bethesda game. It's still a broken mess with many things that you're like, why is this like it the way it is? It still lives up to the whole, it just works, but it doesn't. New graphics with sunbeams coming from the ground inside caves. And things of that nature. But yet, we've had fun with it. It got to the point that we've actually really enjoyed our time with the game. But again, it's only because we're playing together. If you're playing this solo, I don't think I would have lasted more than an hour or two. It's not fun alone. It's fun with a friend when you have goals and you're, exploring. They did add a lot of stuff to it that all of a sudden, oh, well, who's this person? Or what are these people doing here? Kind of things. Mm-hmm. It's improved, but it will never be the game. It'll never be Fallout 4 multiplayer. It will continue to only be acceptable because of mods. And yeah, it's funny that I talk about mods in an online game, but because most of the stuff happens client-side, not server-side.
Another smart decision.
I can't cheat. But it does allow me to make profiles for how my character is built. And instead of having to go in and redo all my cards because I want to build stuff, I have a profile manager now that I go into it, hit 1. That's my battle build. 2 is I'm building armor. 3, I'm building weapons, etc. And if it sounds annoying just from hearing me say I have to use profiles to do this, think of how it would have been if a modder hadn't built this mod.
Mm-hmm.
Things like inventory management, being marked for certain things. All these things that literally modders have done for the last 4 games, because I'm including 76 in this, and Bethesda still hasn't learned that this is something that people want built in, not modded in. We shouldn't have to mod this shit after 4 games.
Do you think we're going to see another Fallout 76 update this time?
There is a roadmap for Fallout 76.
What roadmap? Oh, hang on, guys. I know what we're going to do in our Fallout 76. Let's consult the roadmap. Okay, step 1.
Yes,
Fallout 76. Step 2. Wastelanders NPCs. Step 3. Aliens.
There's been aliens in Fallout.
Aliens 2, the sequel?
Which was actually called Aliens.
Aliens 3?
We don't speak of that.
Aliens Resurrection.
Now you die for...
Ho, 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 ho.
Anyway, what do I expect from Bethesda this year? Not a hell of a lot, actually.
We'll probably see more about those new mobile games like Commander Keen. Which should have just been a 2D platformer.
Yeah. I expect we'll hear more about the storyline DLC expansions for Doom Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably hear more of them jerking off to the Elder Scrolls MMO. If they're smart, they won't bring up Fallout 76. Other than to say we've got a roadmap, moving on. Because the fan base is still willing to lynch. In fact, they shouldn't even... Todd.
Coward.
They shouldn't even have him on stage. Or as part of the presentation.
He's so punchable, holy shit.
Oh, is he ever. And if he tries the same sort of thing last year about, we've heard our game launched a little broken, and that sort of supposed self-deprivation, I just think they better not have comments on that stream.
Self-deprecation doesn't work as well when you can literally make mattresses out of money.
Yeah. When it's not costing you anything. No one respects you already, so you're not getting any respect back.
Sorry, go on.
The fact that there are 2 new games, Star Something and the new Elder Scrolls game that they're working on, are using the same engine.
Not Star Citizen.
Not Star Citizen.
I know the one you're talking about, though.
Yeah. They're going to be using the same broken engine that the last 3 games have used. We're all just like, no.
I mean, World of Warcraft still uses the Warcraft 3 engine.
Yes, but it's so heavily modified, it's not even the same creature anymore.
Sure. Well,
and
maybe they'll modify their engine. I don't know. They should just use Unreal like everyone else on the planet.
The problem is developers have gone into the engine and taken a look at, and they have modified the engine so much that any minute change in any area causes the rest to blow up.
Cool.
That's why we see the problems we're having now. It would be like when you're watching... every now and then I watch developer videos where they're using the Unreal Engine and all those mods where you can show how they're piecing everything together to make a complete game as far as interface, inventory, everything else. Now imagine you have 1 million items on that screen with lines going between every single item to each other, all linked together with those 1 million items. And now you're going along and you're taking some scissors and you're cutting and entire chunks out of it, trying to fix it. Of course it's going to break everything else.
Man.
You've literally got an engine that they need to start over. You've tweaked it as far as you can. I mean, Bethesda has to actually give 90% of the credit that's still working to the New Vegas devs. That was
Obsidian.
Because if Obsidian hadn't gone in there and added and fixed stuff, Fallout 4 wouldn't have been possible, as broken as it was, and only fixed through modding. What else is Bethesda? Oh, we might hear about a new Wolfenstein game, but after the last one didn't do as well as they wanted, I doubt we'll see another game with the girls.
Did you know the original Wolfenstein 3D's engine is what was used for the original Rise of the Triad?
Yep.
That's fucked up.
It was actually a versatile engine.
Was it? Because I understand that it was held together with twine, prayer, and some cement.
Versatile.
Yeah. No, the Doom engine is versatile. The Quake engine is versatile. The Wolfenstein engine it does one thing well, and that's make 3D Pac-Man. And otherwise, you shouldn't be using it for any reason.
Oh, come on. All the jump really did was just kind of move you up to a second plane, is how they fooled it.
I still can't beat Enemy legit.
That was a hard boss.
The robot that shoots 50 bazillion homing missiles at you.
I finished that game legit.
And that moves far faster than Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. Just like Blood. I beat those games legit.
Medieval is supposed to come to Switch sometime this year. Though I'll probably still play it on PC. It'll be nice to have another game to put Kiki to sleep with.
Fair enough. But yeah, I don't expect much from Bethesda Studios they've got there. We'll see the new Wolfenstein, which is back with Blazkowicz after his daughter's games, from what I understand.
Okay.
And the whole reason the daughter's games didn't do so well is it wasn't put together very well. It wasn't because you were playing two girls or anything else.
It just wasn't well made.
It just wasn't well made.
Well, that sucks.
The encounters were not great. The leveling / loot kind of mechanics to it were not great as well. They tried something new, which I can respect, but that needed about another 1,000 hours of QA and a redo. Ubisoft.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Only thing I care about from Ubisoft are Assassin's Creed games. I don't care about Just Dance. I don't care about their most of their shooters anymore because they put no effort into them. Their multiplayer crap, Division, I don't care about.
They're the ones doing Beyond Good and Evil 2, right?
Eventually, I guess. Oh, there was one game I was looking forward to from Ubisoft as well. That was the Gods and Monsters.
Okay.
And that looked like a...
That's not the Populous style game, is it?
No.
No.
This actually has a style more like Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Based in around the Greek gods era. So you're fighting things like Medusa. Like
Zeus.
Yeah.
Zeus. Apollo.
Hercules.
Athena. Artemis.
Ares.
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah. So, what they showed us last year looked neat, but I want to see actual gameplay again before I really say it. They finally announced the new Assassin's Creed game, which is of a Norse variety.
Yep.
And, again, it looks neat, but all you've shown me is a trailer, so I'm not going to say great until I actually see gameplay and see what I want. Because really all I want is Black Flag 2, but I'm never getting that.
They keep putting off the Japan one.
Yeah.
Until they desperately need it.
I think right now it's actually smart to not do Assassin's Creed Japan. Mainly because you've got like Ghost of Tsushima.
Mm-hmm.
You've got multiple games that are based in the Chinese, Japanese mythologies. It's kind of saturated right now, so it's probably a good idea to not go there until you absolutely have to. Also, it would also depend what era you were doing Japan in.
We have one last show because Mariazuke teased that it's happening, and that's the Devolver Digital show.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
So, Devolver's interesting because while most of their show is for the comedy, the fact remains that they announce games on it.
Yep.
And sometimes those games can be pretty hype. So, are we going to get a hype Devolver game this time around? I know that the big one they released recently was that VR combat title Gorn. I can't really think of anything else. Did Metal Wolf Chaos release?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not going to be that. What is the biggest thing Devolver could put out that would turn everyone's head and make everyone go, what the fuck? It would have to be a Smash Brothers character, or like they'd have to publish some indie thing everyone's been waiting for.
I don't know. Maybe they can take
Konami? Were you going to say Konami?
No.
They could publish Konami games because Konami thinks of themselves as an indie dev now?
Actually, no. I was going to say that maybe they could take over the, not the development, but the publishing for PSO2. They would. There's no way they could do a worse job than Microsoft.
You wanted to talk about PSO2.
That was kind of my segue into that. Yeah.
Segue into it, Dave.
Just because I have no idea what Devolver can pull out. It's going to be something we want, but we don't think we want.
It could be.
Knowing them. PSO2 recently had its PC release for North America come out. And this was a release that was linked to the Microsoft Store, not the Xbox app that you can use on your PC to get access to the subscription stuff. So this game so far has installed super slow, uninstalls itself when you reboot if you put it to a hard drive, not your C drive. Crashes, doesn't load, doesn't like you, black screens, gray screens in my case, slow lobbies, etc., etc. And of course, you've got everybody on the Reddit areas and the Discords saying, some people are blaming Sega. However, the majority are blaming where the problem actually lies, and that is Microsoft. Because of the Microsoft Store and all its rules and everything else that it puts its software through, it just isn't working. Mm. So, cue PSO Tweaker, a utility that has been used for years by Japanese and North American players alike that have been playing the PC version out of Japan.
Certain guests of the show have done this exact thing.
Yes.
2 wild guesses as to who.
And they decided that enough was enough, and they released a version of PS Tweaker for the North American version.
Yep.
And they have slowly been adding features to it, like changing file permissions, changing or updating the Game Guard system so it's actually updating rather than crashing. Mm-hmm. They've released a new version that basically installs it without the Microsoft Store being used at all. I don't know who to laugh at more in this case. Microsoft or Sega?
It sucks considering how much Microsoft pushed for this. They really should have used their whole ass. Make the port just buttery smooth. I have heard the voice acting. The English voice acting appears to be quite good.
I played in the quote-unquote beta on the Xbox One edition. And the voice acting is not an issue. I mean, they put some effort into it. They use some good voice actor talent. I mean, nothing that you're going to pull out of any of our translated anime or many video games, but...
We won't hear Christopher Lambert or David Carradine.
No, nor are we going to hear Zelgadis.
Crispin Freeman?
Crispin Freeman.
If you did hear him once, you'd hear him multiple times. Yes. I can't think of one project where he hasn't voiced multiple characters. Even WoW.
Yep.
Well, maybe one Slayers. I think he only did Zelgadis.
Well, but that's a little different, though. In a game, you can have a person do multiple lines much easier.
In Steven Universe, he only did Connie's dad.
Yeah?
Yep, yeah. But that's it. He didn't do any other characters.
There you go. And Connie's dad only showed up, twice?
He had speaking roles both times, and it was Crispin Freeman both times.
Yeah, but still. I mean, that's an easy one to do when you bring him in for two sets of lines kind of thing.
Meanwhile, in Young Justice, he plays 4 different characters.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, the voice acting is fine. I'm seeing a lot of people complaining about the first story act being so weird and discombobulated. In that, one person was actually like, I remember reading that, you actually had to do a mission, go and do this, and then that would trigger the cutscene. Why isn't it like that anymore? And, people explain that would take you literally hours to do certain ones, whereas you can just trigger them now and get to the good part of the game. I'm throwing up 2 fingers, the good part of the game. And yet I'm still trying to install the PC version to see if I'm still interested in the class I'm playing and everything else. Because once you get to around Act 2, you've gotten to know characters, you're starting to actually care a little bit, you're starting to get invested in the storyline. It also kind of sucks that we're so far back from the Japanese version.
You're not that far back. You are behind. You don't have the latest Japanese patch or classes, but you're not leagues behind.
We're, as far as content for weapons, we're only 2 patches in of 7.
I don't think that's right.
From what the different FAQ writers are doing for comparison charts and everything else, they've actually been like, okay, so you're missing patches X, Y, Z, etc., for weapons. Content, you're actually here. It's actually weird. We can find in the universe right now up to 12-star weapons. Okay? Yep. But we're on the content that should be giving us 13 and 14-star weapons, but those weapons aren't in our game yet. So the content that when it was launched in Japan would have given us that. So we're actually going up against enemies that we don't have the weapons necessarily that we should have for the content. It's kind of weird, and you can see it in the wordage and the FAQ writers for the different versions when they're like, well, okay, normally in this one you'd be trying to go for this weapon, for this class, but you can't get there yet. You can get to the boss, but that boss doesn't drop this shit yet, kind of stuff. And it's just like, what?
I'm actually asking the group how far behind it is, just to get a confirmation.
And that's
because
just
everyone else on the friend group that we chat on plays the Japanese version. So,
and there's
and the American version. They're on both now.
There's been some talk that once the games actually reach each other's version, which is supposed to happen by the end of the year, that the servers will actually be merged.
We'll see. That would be cool. I know that the rest of our group would probably appreciate that. There's a rainfall warning, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. The English version, according to one of our friends here, is up to episode 3, but comes with a bunch of quality of life changes introduced in later episodes, like double jumping and some of the later balance changes. It's episode 3 with some mid-episode 6 updates. Japan's on episode 6.
Okay.
Okay, so it's half is probably too... I hope we get to the point where you're fighting the Statue of Liberty, riding on the one other Las Vegas thing, and using the Eiffel Tower as a weapon.
That would be weird, seeing as Las Vegas is not a thing in this game.
No, it is.
It is?
There's a later patch where you visit an Earth that has been taken over by some weird gem virus.
Okay.
And it's actually one of the cooler updates. Like, this thing is capable of taking over all manner of living things and inanimate objects.
Oh.
One of the bosses is a subway hydra, which is a 3-pronged subway train hydra.
Neat.
And one of its attacks is to turn back into a train and charge you. It can take over a helicopter, it takes over bears. And one of the bosses is you're in Las Vegas, and it's the Statue of Liberty that's in one of the casinos, riding on one of the things from another casino, and it uses the small Eiffel Tower as a spear. It's fucking cool. I think it's the Eiffel Tower it uses.
Huh. See, right there, you've just kind of gotten my interest back that there's cool shit on the horizon. I'm still trying to install it. Maybe I'll get it installed tonight and be able to actually run the PC version.
Yeah.
It's just shows how there was, from what I understand, there was a 3-day beta on Steam for PSO2. Not on the Microsoft Store, on Steam is where they beta test it for 3 whole days on PC. Now you'd think this game having run on PC for, 8+ years?
Yeah.
In Japan, Asia, and North America for the Japanese version, with conversion, that this should have been a real easy launch. But again, Microsoft was glad to advertise it and have all the microtransaction stuff all set up. But when it came to getting any help, they were kind of like the arm shrug emoji. That might as well have been their response to everything. I mean, literally, the company that makes this game for Sega, Arclair or something like that, and this PSO tweaker group did all the work.
Yeah, fans fixing what devs should fix for themselves. This is a common...
Arclair, I believe, is the devs for Sega. So they were helping.
Sure, but the fans are the ones who made Tweaker, so...
Well, yeah.
It's the same old, while having add-ons to prevent putting key UI improvements in themselves, because why? You can just get a free add-on.
Well, okay.
Bethesda games using fucking fan
that's
upgrades.
a little different, though. Because there are so many UI mods, how do you, as Blizzard, I gotta defend them in this one, how do you decide which one you make available?
It's not the one you make available, it's the one you design around, and they definitely do design encounters around having deadly boss mods, which is pretty much a requirement to do any group and, in some cases, solo content. It really, all of its warnings and shit should have been baked into the game a long time ago.
See, now that's one I can agree with, even with my knowledge from the old days.
Blizzard, pretty much designs its encounters around the fact that you're going to have some kind of mod that will do this.
Which is lame.
Super lame. Shouldn't do it.
I mean, you could just make it you don't even have to do an interface around that. You can give visual cues to these.
I mean, deadly boss mods shows me timers when the boss is going to use certain deadly abilities. It gives me a big loud blaring sirens to move. It fucking tells me what to interrupt. It plays the Final Fantasy victory jingle when I beat a boss.
Really?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, God.
I mean, and yeah, the encounters are designed around needing this, because honestly, I fought a Shara without it, and I fought a Shara with it, night and day. I tanked a Shara with and without it, night and day.
I can't imagine trying to take out Deathwing without it. Then again, soloing Deathwing was already a really annoying thing.
The latest patch has solo endgame stuff in the form of horrific visions, and there are deadly boss mods for that too. And that has been a big help for this solo player. So.
There are certain things that devs should just integrate into their games. I think some of Blizz's hesitation there as well is, I mean, if they took Deadly Boss's mod and just integrated into their game in any way at this point, people would expect them to give some sort of credit to the mod makers.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. Activision,
and Blizz doesn't
Blizzard,
want to.
Absolutely not. This is fucking Jim Sterling released a video today of how Bobby Kotick, the president of Activision, the CEO of Activision, is just a leech. Mm-hmm. And half the reason they make games is to make money for this prick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they absolutely will just let add-ons be the meat of their encounters.
However, as a counter to that, the only reason the shareholders are complaining about how much he makes is they want that money in their pockets, not his.
True, but he is still a human leech.
So are the shareholders.
Sure, they are. This is a real lesser evil situation.
Yeah.
We've come back around to evil things. Do we have more to discuss on this one? Or do you have any final predictions for the Not-E3? Hey, we're going to do online stuff with stuff.
I hope we see more classic properties be brought back. That is my big thing I want this year, is to see more of companies using their old libraries for good. I don't want to see mobile games pop up. I want you to actually use the properties you've got and give us remakes. Give us new games in these franchises that advance the history of the game. Don't just Breath of Fire 6 it.
Sure. I'm hoping we see some kind of Sonic Mania 2, but I doubt it.
I doubt it.
All right.
Sega seems to have closed their mind to him and his stuff.
To Christian Whitehead stuff, even though Sonic Mania has received commercial and critical accolades as being the best Sonic game ever made, and they can't handle that. I don't know. Do we have more to discuss?
No, that was Sega.
We are closing episode 119 with that, folks. Stay inside. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Black Lives Matter. You can find this at animerave.xyz for this show and Carl's Name Anime Rave. And be good to yourselves and each other.
See you again, everyone.